We're getting weird and sharing our crazy ideas today, and they just might work. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by our pals over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. What's up, friends? This is Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks of HorseshoeHuddle.com. I am your resident credentialed media member for the Colts, and Zach is the best darn film expert in the game. Actually just dropped something on HorseshoeHuddle.com today, so go check that out right after this. Today, I'm going to be the idea man. I'm going to send Zach my crazy ideas. He's going to talk me down. He's going to tell me if it's just unrealistic or whatever, but I'm going to be the guy that's bringing the ideas. Zach is going to tell us how it can actually happen or if it's just stupid and I need to think of something else. So, we're going both sides of the ball today. We're trying to bring unique, fresh ideas to the thing because Shane Steichen is a forward-thinking head coach who isn't afraid to get weird with it. He'll take from anywhere and implement and make it NFL style to how it might actually work on an NFL field. And so that's what we're trying today. And so without further ado, we're going right off the bat. We're meeting old school with new school, and we're going triple option flex bone with it. And it's not necessarily the package that is weird so much as the personnel. And again, I'll preface this with saying you can't just do this against everybody. I think you have to do it against opposing defenses that struggle against the run, struggle moving laterally, or just on film, you've identified that they really have a hard time identifying what's happening on options. So you've obviously got Anthony Richardson at quarterback, Jonathan Taylor as your running back, but then you've got Anthony Gould and perhaps Jason Bean, who could be a special call up from the practice squad. Because I don't think Jason Bean's going to make the roster week one or anything. But that's a guy you can develop on your practice squad. That's probably the Colts' intention day one of them signing him. But call him up from the practice squad and use him in some unique ways against a couple different opponents. But what do we think about this one, Zach? Am I too crazy right off the bat?
I mean, I think the Jason Bean thing might be a little crazy, although you are giving me some great ideas for college football 25 when that comes out. I think that's what I'll be rolling. I'll get Jason Bean back there on Kansas and have some fun with that offense. But, I don't think you're too crazy with, talking flex bone or pistol type of schematic things here and going with the triple option out of it, because the Colts ran quite a bit of triple option last year. And we're not even talking, like you said, the old school triple option. Like, we're not talking Army Navy triple option here. We're not talking like under center, kicking it out and tossing it to the outside. Although, again, talking college football video games, scoring 1,000 points a game with my 5-star quarterback I made for my Navy team on there. We're talking about getting in that pistol look there, having running back behind, having maybe like a Kylan Granson on one side, and then doing some orbit type motion with a Josh Downs or with an Anthony Gould. The Colts did do quite a few triple option things in terms of running the ball and passing the ball in triple option last year. So again, Jason Bean might be a little unrealistic here if we're talking some flex bone like pistol type offense stuff, but I could see a very realistic version of this being something like, you have Richardson in the pistol formation, you have Jonathan Taylor lined up behind him as the running back, Kylan Granson or Drew Ogletree to one side, and then before the snap, you motion Taylor up to one side of Richardson, and then you have the orbit motion going with Downs or Gould behind, and then you can bluff a run there by doing the read option or the triple option with Taylor and having Granson as the lead blocker on to like the left side, and then you can have the orbit motion going to the right and working with Richardson if he pulls it to work as that triple option. So I don't think you're too off with the flex bone stuff or with triple option. I think Jason Bean in there would be really fun though. Like maybe in the preseason when Bean is out there as like the 4th-string quarterback or 5th-string quarterback, then we could see him in some offensive stuff like this. I really hope the Colts do, some of this type of stuff in the preseason with Jason Bean and just let him use those legs. But I think that the overall thing that you're talking about, this type of offense and running these like triple option runs and passes, is something that Shane Steichen incorporated quite a bit last season for the Colts. And kind of like what we just said, like a lot of Kansas offense in college too. They did a lot of that last year with the Colts when Richardson was on the field.
Yeah, I think that is where you get into the realistic part of it is, again, old school, that's kind of a 1920s concept, but now you got these uber athletes like Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. I mean, even your blockers, like you mentioned, Kylan Granson, Drew Ogletree. I mean, Jelani Woods, very good athlete who has a quarterback background, can make things somewhat interesting. I mean, there's you give yourself a lot of possibilities. And to give context as to why it's Jason Bean, like if this is your first time watching the show where you don't know who Jason Bean is, he was Kansas's quarterback. Super athletic, gadgety, is going to run with it and turn a corner and burn the defense type of player. He's QB4 right now for the Colts, QB4 or 5. So he's in there in the mix. I think he's a project player, not a roster guy. I mean, he's someone you are going to sit on your practice squad for a year or two and just see what happens. But I mean, you can find some utility with a guy like that in certain instances. And I think Steichen's a guy that, not afraid to get freaky with it and bring some less heralded players into the fold.
Yeah, let me throw out a very realistic, fun triple option that includes a passing option here that we could see the Colts do this next year. Mm-hmm. We could see a very unique formation set come out where the Colts are in pistol formation, Jonathan Taylor to one side. So we're talking like a 3-4 yard, shotgun in the pistol, and Jonathan Taylor in that shotgun set next to Richardson and set it behind him. And then you're getting that orbit motion to have Downs or Gould behind him there, right behind. So you have essentially that 3-man backfield of Richardson, Downs / Gould, and Taylor. And then you could have like a Michael Pittman Jr. as that sniffer tight end back off the line of scrimmage. We actually saw this on an RPO play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 12 last year, where the Colts converted on a 4th and 1 by tossing it out to Richardson on this type of play. So what you could do, again, you could sell the run action to either Downs / Gould or to Taylor, and then have Richardson pull it and be the run option or the pass option. You could have them do what they did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just pull it out and throw it to a wide open Michael Pittman Jr. on the backside. I think it was like a backside up and out or out and up type of route there, which he converted for a 30-yard gain. Or again, when Richardson's out there, it's very different than Gardner Minshew out there because he can actually pull it and run it a little bit. So again, I think when you say the triple option game, the triple option game was very prevalent in the Colts offense last year. Even when Richardson wasn't out there, the Colts are running a ton of triple option. It just wasn't run triple option. It was run pass run triple option. We look at the Cleveland Browns game last year where Gardner Minshew had 2 rushing touchdowns. Those were triple option calls. I know that some people will key them as RPOs, and someone will key them as just read option type plays, but those were essentially triple option plays where the first option is run to the running back, second option is pull it and throw, third option is quarterback run, and Gardner Minshew took it for 2 touchdowns in that game with the run option. So the triple option game was really big in the Colts offense last year, and they can make it even more fun and more prevalent this year with a guy like Anthony Gould in the mix, with a Jason Bean in the mix if he has some fantastic offseason and gets in there, with Taylor and Richardson both being healthy. So again, we're having fun today. We're talking Jason Bean being out here. Oh, we love Jason Bean. We are an all Jason Bean podcast for sure. But I do think the Colts' potential in this triple option game is really big. And the Colts did, not the Colts, but Shane Steichen did a lot of triple option with the Eagles too. So we know he likes to do this type of stuff with his offensive system. So I do think we'll see a lot of triple option. We'll see a lot of flex bone and pistol type work with the Colts this next season. And I think we're going to see some really cool and fun offensive sets when it comes to Shane Steichen with Anthony Richardson.
Jason Bean also brings you that element of the pass. You're adding the passing wrinkle in there. I think we all want to see Anthony Richardson catch a tud at some point. Who's going to throw it to him?
Let's get him out there for 17 games first, and then we can start talking catch a touchdown.
Whoa.
Yes, let's get him out there for a full season first, and then we'll talk about catching touchdowns and having a little more fun with it.
Yeah. Speaking of catching touchdowns, on our next segment, I'm going to bring to you something I am calling the Redwood Personnel Package. Whether you're a Hoosier who needs tickets to go see the Reds, Cubs, White Sox, shoot, even here locally with the Indy Indians, Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball or Minor League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. And prices on the app actually go down the closer that it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They've got the last-minute deals, which means you save up to 60% off of buying last-minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it is that you're into. They got the zone deals. That means you save even more when you choose a section, and then you let Gametime choose the seats for you. You've got, again, the views from the seats means you get a great panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. There's not much worse than getting to the event and your view really sucks, but that's not a thing with Gametime. Over the coming days in Indy, you've got the Indians, Fever, and the 11 all playing locally. Plus, there's several concerts coming up to choose from. So, again, just take the guesswork out of buying tickets to MLB games or whatever it is that you want to go do with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Are you guys watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? You have to turn down the volume with all that shouting and hot takery? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel is programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels. That part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, Locked On Colts everydayers, we are back talking more crazy Jake ideas. And look, I'm not going to say all these ideas are perfect. All these ideas are great here. But one thing I do know about Jake is he's good at naming stuff and coming up with fun puns or alliterations. He's got that dad comedy, that dad humor there, just deep within him. And I really do love the name for this next one, almost as much as I love the idea. So the Redwood Personnel Package in the Red Zone, Jake, tell us all about it.
Oh, there's so many layers to that. So the basis to it, we all know that since Chris Ballard got to Indy in 2017, he has a type when it comes to his pass catchers. The bigger, the better, the lengthier, the taller, the vertical leap. Like he wants tall, explosive pass catchers. Doesn't matter if they're consistently catching the ball or not, but he has had a type. He's been a little bit in recent years. But we've always thought, okay, great. Those guys can win in 50-50 situations. You can use them in the red zone. But that just really hasn't been the thing. Now, Jonathan Taylor being around and constant change at the quarterback position has kind of changed what you can do there. But, they still have big pass catchers, and I'd like to see him use those guys in the red zone. We're going to say low red zone, which is, not the goal line, but you're looking at about 5 to 15 yards ish is what you're looking at that area. So you're going 11 personnel is mostly what I think. So you got your inline tight end and you got one running back. You could play with this a little bit, but you could put A.D. Mitchell out of the X, Pittman in the slot, and then either of Pierce or Woods out wide next to the slot there. And then Ogletree is your inline guy. So you've got a bunch of guys who are probably going to be taller than the defender going up against them. You can have a pass catching back there if you want to next to Richardson, but Jonathan Taylor with Anthony Richardson down in the red zone, that is always going to put the fear of God in the defense, and it's going to keep them on their toes. And Taylor can catch fine enough. So, the play action there, that can suck the back end of the defense up to the line of scrimmage, leaving more space for your taller pass catchers to go get it. So I think we've all been calling for that for years. Just throw a bunch of your tall pass catchers out there, throw it up to them in the end zone and let them go get it. And this is a way to have it as only tall dudes out there, and you're going to throw it. You have the threat of the play action with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. I think there is a lot of stuff that you can do with this. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I will say my one pushback is there's a lot of studies shown that the goal line fade or the slot fit, whatever it is in the red zone, is not the greatest play call in the whole wide
But
world. So
see,
I know,
that's why you're going low red zone. It's
yeah,
not a
yeah,
goal. It's not a goal line thing. You're going
right,
from about
right.
5 to 15 yards, so there's room to do it.
But I love where your head's at with this one. I think there are some really good ideas, and they're maybe not going like 11, or I guess if Woods is out there, it could be tagged as like a 12 personnel type of play there, depending on who's doing the tagging
You are
there.
splitting them out, though, by the
Right,
way.
right. You're splitting
You
them
have
out,
one
still
in
tight
line.
end.
Yeah.
It just depends on who's doing the tagging, how you're going to
Mhm.
tag that there. But yeah, no, I do love the 11, 12 personnel. I love the big bodies out there. We could even go even more crazy with it by going like 12 or 13 personnel. No one below 6'4" is allowed on the field during this personnel set. Like that'll be
No
a really fun.
shorties.
No shorties on the field whatsoever. I guess Jonathan Taylor's below 6'4", but I digress. That's not the point of this here. But I do love the idea of getting these big body guys out there because, look, that's what these guys are all here for. Mitchell and Pittman are great with their body control and their strength and their physicality and going up and getting the ball. We saw with Jelani Woods back when he was healthy 2 years ago, how good he was in the red zone, the couple chances that he got. I mean, I think he had 2 like red zone fade touchdowns that year. He had one against the Kansas City Chiefs that won the game in the final like seconds of the game there. So these guys have shown that ability to make plays in the red zone. Oh yeah, and then we have Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson, where if you can just spread things out and just let them do their thing, I think that's going to be the main selling point in the red zone this year and what's going to lead to great red zone success. But when it comes to Shane Steichen in the red zone, we saw some fantastic things last year, especially early when Anthony Richardson was healthy. We saw that 13 personnel set where Richardson was, kind of the furthest man back in the backfield with all the dudes in front of him. And it was at that RPO type play. It was such a cool designed play. And I still have no clue where he got it from. I tried to find sources at the college football level, and I have no clue where he got it. But the Colts are 4 for 4 on it last year when they ran it. So I wouldn't put it past Shane Steichen to come up with something similar to this, where just finding ways to create those uneven matchups for opposing teams and take advantage of the low red situations. I do think a really fun element that we could add to this, though, is being a little bit more heavy with it. Again, being like 23 personnel or 13 personnel type stuff and having more of these tight ends on the field. Like what if we did something like this, Jake, where we had Jelani Woods all by himself backside. We're sitting him Z receiver, and we're saying, you know what? If we see just the one-on-one matchup there, and we want to throw the jump ball 5, 6, 7 yards out, that's an option if our quarterback feels good about taking that. But in more inline, more inside, you have like Drew Ogletree, Will Mallory, and then if you want to be really fun with it, you could have Michael Pittman Jr. inside as well, being more of that sniffer guy, and he can be more of your motion guy moving around in the line, he can be cracking back, he can be your RPO option on the backside. That way your defense has to be aware of him. And then you're doing, primarily running the ball out of that. You're primarily going to be running it with Taylor and Richardson, but you have those 2 passing threats of Pittman moving around pre-snap, and then obviously the Woods option on the backside there. I think something like that could be really cool and still keep with that Redwood personnel package where it's like, look, all these like 6'4", 6'5" dudes are on the field and they're going to still beat you with speed, but they have those jump ball capabilities and those capabilities to move these guys around a little bit.
Pittman being the smallest participant in that sounds awesome because honestly, like him essentially being your Josh Downs, like down there, like I really like that a lot. Yeah. I think you could even get Kylan Granson involved in this coming out of the backfield. Like there's endless possibilities. Like he's not one of your taller tight ends. But I mean, certainly he's one of your bigger pass catchers in general. So I really like that. I like the idea of bringing this up, but giving specific examples of how this could work. Because like so many people are like, Alec Pierce is 6'3", 6'4", throw him out there and just let him catch and stuff. It's like, okay, well, like it's not always that simple. And like we mentioned, goal line fades, like there's a reason the Colts don't do that. Like they're very successful running the ball closer to the end zone. I mean, Jonathan Taylor knows for the end zone. Anthony Richardson knows for the end zone. But like, I think this is a way to make it to where it gives you wrinkles when you're not knocking on the doorstep, essentially. And you could still use the passing game and use the big, tall guys that you've invested in to their strengths.
Yeah, I do think the Colts are going to lean on their run game quite a bit this next season when it comes to the low red, or at least the RPO or triple option type game, because you have those 2 dynamic threats in Richardson and Taylor. But when you add a guy like AD Mitchell, when you're getting a guy like Jelani Woods back out there, two guys who have the potential to be fantastic red zone targets with their size and athleticism, it does open up a little bit more to what you can do. And again, if teams are starting to key on Richardson because he's such a devastating red zone threat, like we saw last year, I think he had one drive that got to like the low red area that didn't end up in a touchdown. If you see teams start just loading up the box, then you have those options on the outside where it's like, hey, Mitchell's going to have a two-way go by himself on the outside against the corner. Pittman's going to have a two-way go out there. Josh Downs is going to have a slot corner and off-man coverage in the red zone. Okay, we're going to go that way. Jelani Woods by himself with a 5'10" corner. Like, if those things open up because Richardson's such a devastating run threat, then it just makes your red zone offense so much better.
Yeah, I am in total agreement. So coming up next, this one is probably the least likely of the bunch. It's basically a small, speedy, do or die, all or nothing defensive package. Okay, Zach. So this one, this started out as like a small idea, and it just snowballed from there. And this is one we've actually been talking about a couple weeks. And I finally settled it into what I think I would want it to look like here. So the purpose of this defensive package, you cannot just use this against everybody. This is for offenses who are using smaller tight ends and receivers, maybe spreading it out a little bit. These are for opposing offenses with a mind on throwing the ball, and they don't have those big tree trunk receivers that the Colts have. So you're doing this to keep up and, swarm, but to also make big plays, because the risk on this is you're going to get cooked because you're small. You have guys playing out of their normal position. The upside to it is, though, you're very, very fast. You could get to the ball pretty quickly as long as it's not downfield over your head. And then you can make plays because a lot of the guys involved in this are playmakers who could take the ball away. So you're looking at your defensive line. And Zach is going to explain how these guys could line up specifically in formations as well, if you just can't see how this works. So the defensive line, your ends are going to be Samson Ebukam and Laiatu Latu. And then inside, you're going with DeForest Buckner basically as your one tech, and then Dio as your three tech. Linebackers, Julian Blackman as your Mike, and then Jalen Carlisle as your Will, because those guys are going to supply you with some pass defense there in the middle. Your corners is pretty much normal. Juju Brents, whoever wins out between Dallas Flowers and Jalen Jones, and then Kenny Moore in the nickel. And then your safeties are Nick Cross and Ronnie Harrison, which is actually something we saw in the final week of the season. So again, the purpose of this, guys who could take the ball away, guys who are going to get to the ball quickly. So it's very small. This one is one where you line up that way, and then you see the offense hurry their 220-pound running back onto the field, and then you call a timeout because it's going to be a bloodbath. But yeah, I want to see this happen how I intend it to be used, and I want to see it successfully. What do you think?
Yeah, so you're talking about a 4-1-6 kind of defense here. I mean, again, you can change some things a little bit, but it's kind of how you tag it here. I probably wouldn't have Ronnie Harrison out there personally in this because it kind of defeats the purpose, because then why wouldn't you just have Harrison at Mike instead of Blackman? And I know you just wanted to be you wanted to have fun with it.
Well, Blackman's a chess piece. You can move him around.
Yeah, I think what the Colts would probably do is Rodney Thomas at free safety and Nick Cross at strong safety in this scenario here.
But communication's important in this instance. Harrison could take the ball away.
That's true. He did show that he could do that last year. But I think the Colts, the Colts did run a lot of dime last year. It wasn't a ton of dime. Like, we're not talking like they're the Minnesota Vikings here, where the Vikings are running dime, like 20% of the time, and they were blitzing like 100% of the time out of it. But the Colts did run a lot of dime last year, and they were actually the second most blitz heavy team out of dime personnel, because what they realized last season, and maybe they kind of don't do that this next year because Latu, they think, can just turn it on as a pass rusher. But the reason why they did that is more speed rushing the passer. You get to the passer quicker, disrupt the pass. It can be more effective than bringing a linebacker or bringing an extra defensive end or anything like that. So the Colts did run a good amount of dime last year. They blitzed a good bit out of it. So I wouldn't throw this package completely away and say there's going to be no dime. or like even dime personnel packages like this. I mean, we even saw some 3 safety sets last year when they were trying to get Nick Cross onto the field with Rodney Thomas and Julian Blackmon, where Nick Cross was essentially playing, weak side linebacker next to Zaire Franklin on some of these like really long 3rd and 16, 3rd and 17 type plays. And he made a couple big tackles on plays like that last year. So I don't think this is out of the ordinary too much. I do think something we could see from the Colts in terms of getting like some really wonky like dime packages out there is going more like 3-3-5. I guess that's more nickel, but like you could do 3-2-6 or something like that out there with the team where, I saw a couple personnel packages last year where it was 3 down defensive linemen. You got, I think it was like Kwity Paye, Dio Dangbo, and DeForest Buckner down. And then Grant Stewart would come on the field and he's blitzing because he can't do anything else on defense besides blitz, which was really fun. And then you would sneak a backside corner like a Kenny Moore off the backside. Or you could even bring 6 guys. You can bring a Kenny Moore and bring, Julian Blackmon if he's in the box there, and just bring all that pressure to make sure that you're getting after the quarterback on 3rd and 15, 3rd and 16, and getting that ball out of his hands quickly. That's where we really see the Colts bring stuff like this. So like you mentioned at the top of this one, Jake, the Colts are not going to bring this out against a base offense or anything, or like an offense that's, on 1st down or 2nd down in the 1st quarter of a game. But I do think if you're looking at like, do or die, an offense has to convert 3rd and 15 in the 4th quarter, you could see the Colts bring out a package like this. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me if this package was a blitz package. If it was going to be a very heavy blitz package and you see like a Ronnie Harrison come down from the strong safety and come off the edge and blitz along with a Julian Blackmon blitz. And then you're having a 6-man rush with Carlisle and the rest of these defensive backs sitting back around the sticks on like 3rd and 15. You could totally see a package like this happening under Gus Bradley.
Weird wrinkle. One guy I struggled to put in here, maybe you kick Kwity Paye inside as well. I mean, that's something he's not done a ton of in the NFL, but I mean, he did it at Michigan. He moved around plenty. You kick him inside, you could maybe make him, but it's like, do you trust him more than Dio? Like, is Dio way better suited for that role? And then Micah Abraham, honestly, if you wanted to put him, back in the secondary as a ball hawk type, you could do that as well if you want to add weirder wrinkles to it.
Yeah, well, and also you could put like a guy like Jalen Simpson out there, depending on depending on how good his camp is, for instance. But like a Jalen Simpson is really intriguing here because of the free safety background.
Yeah,
to where if you want like the Colts have this thing called sticks defense. So on like 3rd and 20, what Gus Bradley would do, it's very different from what you're talking about here. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but they'll have a 3-man pass rush, and then they'll have 8 defensive backs sitting at the sticks, or it'll be like 6 defensive backs and 2 linebackers just sitting at the sticks. The Colts do this quite a bit, actually. It's really funny if you go back and watch film. If they're ever against like a 3rd and 20, they'll just do this, right? They'll sit everybody back, and then they'll have 1 free safety back over the top in case somebody, for whatever reason, just runs past the guys at the sticks. You could have a really rangy player like a Jalen Simpson back there. And then you could have the other guys underneath, being your more ball hawk, like, on ball type guys. So I think Simpson could get some snaps of free safety this year, even if he is a corner, just because you can be more unique with your defensive coverage that way. We also saw sometimes last year with the Colts where Kenny Moore would rotate back into the 2 high looks that they were trying to do. They'd bring Julian Blackmon down to blitz or to cover underneath, and just to add variety to the defense, they would rotate back Kenny Moore. You could see that with like a Simpson. If he makes the roster, he could get out there and rotate back to being a single high guy, or rotate back to being a 2 high guy because of that safety background. So having guys with that versatile background could add to more nuanced things you can do on the back end with your secondary.
Yeah, I like it. It's especially the last couple weeks of the season, I felt like the Colts got a little more unique with it, at least defensively. So I'm looking forward to seeing some new wrinkles added to it. Definitely, you guys, throughout the entire show, I hope you are just throwing in your weird ideas that you've got for it as well. We didn't even get to all the ones that we have. So, I mean, if you guys have any unique ideas or really like cool, different things you want to see the Colts do, throw them in the comments for sure.
Yes, please throw in the comment section how bad you want to see Zaire Franklin be the full-time fullback, or Grover Stewart being the full-time
Someone's
fullback.
Someone's got to do it.
Adetomi being the full-time fullback, that would be a fun one with his athleticism. Like, let's just bring fullback back to Indianapolis and have one of these defensive guys be that. Like, that'd be really fun. But you guys let us know in the comment section below. Before we get out of here, I do want to remind you guys that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We love you guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.